Today, I've got Natalie Jurado on the show. Natalie is a magnesium expert and advocate, a fellow magnesium fan. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
So, what have you done so far today for your health, wellness, and performance?
Today specifically?
Yes.
Oh, wow. This morning I got up early, did some reading and some reflection and some prayer, and started my day off with a nice organic fair trade cup of coffee.
No magnesium.
Not yet, not yet. You usually start with magnesium at around 10, 11 o'clock, so pretty soon.
And is there a reason that you take it at that time?
Yeah, that's when my coffee starts wearing off and I need
Ah,
a little bit of extra energy. So I usually will take some magnesium malate in the late to mid morning just to kind of get my energy levels up and get my day really, really off to a great start.
interesting. I actually do the exact opposite. I took my magnesium malate about 10 minutes ago, and then
Oh
I'll
yeah.
have coffee. I guess not today because it's the weekend. I tend to avoid coffee on the weekends, but if it was a weekday, then I'd drink coffee in about 45 minutes, an hour.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So yeah, that's some discipline. I wish I could kick that coffee habit on the weekends, but one day, one day.
I do it to avoid building tolerance so that it doesn't become as necessary to take breaks.
I love that. That's a really, really good way of doing that. That's awesome.
It seems that our schedules are in reverse too because I was planning on reading before this, but because of logistics, it seems like it's going to be afterward instead.
Well, as long as you get your reading in, I read once, and I don't remember where, but that highly successful people always spend time reading every day. So
Yeah.
I've tried to make it a really good habit.
Yeah, and it's one of those habits that once you implement, you start looking forward to. And I was never a big reader growing up, and then post college, I realized if you find the right material, how engaging it can be.
Absolutely. And I go back and forth between fiction and nonfiction just so I have a good a good balance in my life.
Yeah,
How about you?
mainly nonfiction, but occasionally fiction. I like to pick up things from different like walks of life, different fields, and a lot of times you find themes in places you wouldn't expect to find themes.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I agree.
So, how'd you get into magnesium? I know that we mentioned we were both fans of a book called Magnesium Miracle, which
Mhm.
comes as no surprise given the topic of this show. But what was your like, health and wellness background?
So it really wasn't that long ago, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, that I owned a natural store. And yet I was having so many health issues. I was dealing with constant anxiety and stress. I was feeling overwhelmed. And I was doing everything that you're supposed to do. I totally checked off all the boxes. I was eating a healthy, well balanced organic diet. I was exercising regularly. I was using healthy products. I was totally doing everything that you're supposed to do, like totally textbook. And yet I was still dealing with these awful, awful symptoms. So, I did what any normal person would do. I went to the doctor. I said, "Hey, doc, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel so awful?" And she ran a battery of tests and made a ton of referrals to other doctors and other specialists. And when it was all said and done, they all said, "Hey, you're totally normal. There's nothing wrong with you."
Yeah.
And I thought, wow. So they, of course, prescribed a litany of anti anxiety meds and sleep medicate, all the stuff, all the pills. And I didn't want to take any of them. So I kept searching and I kept searching. And at the time, I owned a health store. And one of my customers said, "Hey, have you tried magnesium?" I'm like, I've tried everything else. I haven't tried magnesium. And so I started using it topically on my skin. And within days, I was able to sleep again. I went from sleeping 2 hours a night to sleeping a full night. And I don't know if you've ever gone without sleep before, but it is brutal. It's awful when you don't get enough sleep. So that instant relief was magical for me. And then, of course, my anxiety started going away. I stopped having panic attacks, and I felt like I was finally free. I felt like that I had unlocked something in my body that gave me true health freedom. So I spent my time and the last few years doing a deep, deep, deep dive into magnesium to find out why it works so well, to find out why we don't know about it, and to spread the message about it as well.
Yeah. I came at magnesium from the performance side of things. After like long football games or rugby matches, would be extremely sore and looking for anything that could help relieve some of that like muscle ache and fatigue. And a couple sprays of magnesium oil over it within minutes alleviated like all the soreness, at least temporarily. And that's how I found it. Magnesium is one of those minerals that everyone's heard of, but don't understand just how critical it is for all kinds of processes that run in the human body.
Absolutely. Like what you're saying, in terms of for athletic performance, magnesium actually reduces the buildup of lactic acid in the muscles. So that's why it really, really is impactful for people who train really hard and who get really sore, that kind of thing. It also helps with inflammation as well. Magnesium is a powerful, powerful anti-inflammatory properties.
And most people, when they start diving into the health scene, they hear about calcium and how important it is. But there's the lesser known important ratio of calcium to magnesium. So if you're just taking a bunch of calcium products, you're getting calcium from your diet, you're not getting enough magnesium for reasons we'll discuss later. You're tipping the ratio towards the more excitatory, like I guess too much stimulus, not enough recovery side of things.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that so few people know about. That whole calcium magnesium ratio is so, so critical to our health. And unfortunately, so many of our foods are overcalcified. Like I'm seeing like in the grocery
Yeah.
stores, orange juice has calcium in it now.
Yeah.
Like, bread has calcium in it now. Like they've added so much calcium to our food and we're desperately in need of magnesium. So our ratios we're seeing symptoms of people's ratios be just so, so, so far off.
We'll talk about forms of magnesium later, but I don't know if the type of calcium they're fortifying food with, is it bioavailable? Like, do you absorb it? Because I know the type of magnesium they add a lot of times in forms like magnesium oxide, for example, the body can't use. So it's virtually useless. But if the calcium is bioavailable and you're getting more of that and less bioavailable magnesium, it's not going to do much.
No, no. I mean, that much is definitely true as well. Um, I find that, especially with extra enriched and fortified products, I find that the sources of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that they use in it are just not bioavailable. They're not something our body actually recognizes. I always tell people your best line of defense against nutritional deficiencies is to eat a balanced whole foods diet because nutrients come in their best, most perfect form straight from our foods.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And a lot of times when you isolate and you get the specific compound, but you don't have the other like inactive and active ingredients around it, it doesn't have nearly the same effects.
Oh yeah, a really good example of that is vitamin D. Like we have such a crisis, at least here in the United States, with people not getting enough vitamin D, and it's primarily because people don't go out in the sun. Like you need to go out in the sun to get your vitamin D, and most of us are working during peak sun hours. Most of us are indoors in school and at work. So people are often told by their doctors to supplement with vitamin D because their vitamin D levels are so low, but you can't process vitamin D without magnesium. You also need K2. So like there's all these other beautiful nutrients that surround vitamin D that make it bioavailable in your body. But if you're just popping a pill every day with vitamin D in it and nothing else, you're not really reaping the benefits.
After the customer came into your store and told you to try magnesium, you took it for a few nights, noticed instant relief. Then what?
So of course, immediately I'm like, I need to have this in the store. I'm like, I need to sell this in my store. So I brought on a line of magnesium products and started recommending it to the customers, and the customers' lives were literally being changed. Like it was insane how many people came in and said, hey, I was able to get off my sleep medication, or hey, I'm not anxious anymore, or my headaches are starting to go away. And it was just amazing. It was so impactful. But the product that we had in the store was it was a magnesium lotion, and it was really greasy and heavy, and it didn't feel good on the skin. And the other option was to recommend that people use magnesium chloride spray straight. And I don't know if you ever tried straight chloride spray, but it is so itchy and so
Yeah.
chalky and so uncomfortable. So I had two sides of the spectrum. I had something heavy and greasy and something chalky and uncomfortable. And I thought there's gotta be a better way. And that kind of sparked my journey to develop a really nice way of getting magnesium onto your skin that people would want to use every single day and would want to replace their skincare with. So that was a whole journey of trying to launch and trying to develop a formula during a worldwide pandemic. So
Wow.
it's been fun, but we finally got everything going really well.
Nice. I guess let's take a step back and why is magnesium deficiency so common? Why do people get all this relief of different symptoms when they start taking supplemental magnesium?
Sure. So I think there's a two-part issue that we're dealing with. And the first is that we're not getting enough magnesium in our diet. Our fruits, our vegetables, our soil is so different now than it was 100 years ago. We don't have the same farming practices that we had before. We're not eating in season like we did before. We're not eating locally like we did before. So our food is not as nutrient dense as it was many, many years ago. An orange back in the 1950s had significantly more vitamin C in it than an orange nowadays. So that's a huge issue. The second issue is that we're not eating the right foods. The standard American diet is so overly processed and it's so lacking in nutrients and vitamins and minerals. And it's hard to resist it when we live in a society where we are advertised constantly to eat this processed food. And it's easier to get your hands on a bag of chips than it is to get your hands on a banana. So we're making really poor choices. We're not taught about nutrition in schools. This is something that we should know about ever since a young age. And our medical system really doesn't support healthy eating. My case was not unique when I went to the doctor and said there's something wrong, and they said, here's a pill that'll fix your problem, instead of working to really get to the root cause of the issue. So that's one whole thing, is just that we don't get enough magnesium.
Do you know how long ago did they come up with RDAs and the vitamin and mineral content inside food?
Oh wow, I don't know off the top of my head like when they first developed it, but I know it was very, very long time ago, and it hasn't been updated since. And then I've heard that the people that were involved in the RDAs were people from industry, from businesses, and not necessarily scientists and nutritionists as well. Case
That's one issue. If it was measured 30, 40, 50 or more years ago and the mineral content of soil continues to decline, then what you're getting actually like on your plate is going to differ a lot from what's on the label.
Oh, 100%. I agree 1,000%. A case in point is magnesium. The RDA for magnesium is anywhere from 350 to 400 milligrams per day, but that's just barely enough to ward off outright deficiency. Like
Yeah.
in order to actually attain optimal health and to keep prevent the many diseases that are associated with magnesium deficiency, you need at least twice as much. It really is. It's not what it says on the bottle is not necessarily what's in the bottle, and then on top of that, it's not necessarily what you need. So it could be very confusing.
And I think part of the problem too is when you plug in what you're eating into one of those online food calculators, it shows all this magnesium, doesn't show any problem with deficiency. And because of that, the inaccuracy between the current food that we're getting and the labels, and then also anti-nutrients in food, such as like phytic acid, trypsin inhibitors, oxalates, all these things that inhibit the body's ability to actually use the minerals. What we're actually absorbing and able to utilize and assimilate is far less than what we think it is.
Absolutely. And then you add people who have leaky gut and gut issues that are preventing further nutrient absorption. Like it's scary. It really, really is. In the book that you mentioned earlier, The Magnesium Miracle by Dr. Carolyn Dean, who, I mean, if you can get your hands on this book, definitely read it. It's amazing,
Mind blowing.
It really is. But she wrote in the book that up to 85% of doctors' visits can be traced back to magnesium deficiency. Like that's mind-boggling to me
Yeah.
that so many of our issues could be fixed with nutrients. Like it's amazing, and yet that our doctors aren't telling us about it. They don't know about it. I mean, I think that's the issue, is that they don't know about it.
Do you ever hear of people having problems with taking too much magnesium?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest pushbacks that I get from people about magnesium is that they've tried it. They bought some magnesium at the store, they took a dose of it, and then they spent the whole day in the bathroom. It's
Uh,
because if you take too much magnesium all at once, our body has this beautiful fail-safe mechanism. It won't let you overdose because it'll just excrete it through your bowels. So it's your body's way of protecting you. But it also has that nasty side effect that nobody really wants to deal with. So I always tell people to avoid any kind of side effects is you break up your magnesium and you space it out throughout the day in small doses. That way you're not getting too much at once and you're not getting any of those nasty side effects that we don't want to deal with.
Yeah, and that's especially common with one form called magnesium citrate.
Yes.
I haven't had it with others, but I know that if you have too much citrate, it can lead to an upset stomach pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, that's the number one brand that you see out in the market is the citrate powders because they're advertised as tasting like orange and blueberry, that kind of thing. So that is one to really, really consider. If you're going to start with magnesium, maybe don't start with that one.
Yeah, or start really, really low and slowly work your way up, and even then be cautious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
We'd be remiss not to talk about the benefits of magnesium because we've talked about how everyone's deficient in it and how important it is for the body. But what are these things that it does?
Oh, wow. Magnesium does, there's just so much. There's so much. So when it comes to magnesium, if you're dealing with symptoms like headaches, if you're dealing with anxiety, muscle cramps, leg spasms, restless legs, like much of the symptoms that we all deal with nowadays, then that could be a sign of low magnesium. Magnesium has been studied in so many different ways. One of my favorite ways that magnesium has been studied is its role in anxiety. Magnesium plays this incredible role in the body in that it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And we all tend to be in sympathetic mode all day long, especially dealing with, the issues that we've had over the last couple of years. We're stressed out all the time. Our cortisol levels are through the roof. We're running around all crazy, and that's sympathetic mode. So magnesium activates the parasympathetic, meaning that it helps your body get calm and relaxed and kind of get grounded and centered. So it plays an incredible role in anxiety. If you or anybody have ever dealt with anxiety, that is magnesium is definitely a good place to start. It also binds to GABA receptors, and GABA receptors are neurotransmitters that are responsible for quieting down nerve activity in the brain. So if you got that kind of brain that kind of keeps going and going and going, going like a rat reel, it's an incredible, incredible supplement for that as well.
And it also increases serotonin, which is like the feel-good neurotransmitter in the brain. So it's like a natural mood booster.
Absolutely. And it lowers cortisol levels. There was, I want to say it was a 2017 study that tested cortisol levels before and after supplementing with magnesium. And they found overwhelmingly that cortisol levels went down when you supplement with magnesium. And cortisol is, that's our stress hormone. So anything that'll bring that down always makes for a calmer mood.
Yeah, and it relaxes and lowers stress without like taking away your edge. If you think that that can be what drives you, it has its beneficial effects without taking away.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. It doesn't make you want to take a nap because that's what people often think. They're like, oh, you should take magnesium before bed, which you should, especially if you're dealing with insomnia, but it really doesn't it doesn't knock you out like a lot of other anxiety medication and drugs can do.
Yeah, and it also has beneficial effects on like your hunger, your meal timing. It helps your body break down, digest, and utilize the macronutrients in your food, and also blunt food cravings and overeating.
Oh yeah, yeah. People ask all the time. They're like, "Oh, does magnesium help you lose weight?" And I'm like, "Yes and no. It's not like going to make you not want to eat anything at all, but I think it works in two ways. The first is that so many times when we're craving foods, especially chocolate, like a lot of women, especially right before our cycles, will start craving chocolate. Most of the time, what you're actually craving is magnesium because chocolate is high in magnesium. So I find that when people start using magnesium, they stop craving chocolate and other junk foods, which is so, so helpful when you're trying to lose weight,
Yeah.
And then it also, it brings down that your stress levels and that anxiety. And so many of us deal with emotional eating. And, we get stressed out, we reach for a glass of wine. We get stressed out, we want a piece of cake, that kind of thing. So if you eliminate the stress, then you don't have those emotional based food cravings.
In the Magnesium Miracle book we were talking about earlier, she also mentions that centenarians, the people living over 100 years old, there's a high correlation between how much magnesium they have and how little calcium they have in comparison to your typical elderly folks.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've also read studies that people who live by the beach tend to feel more relaxed and calm and live longer. And part of the reason is because the ocean is chock full of magnesium. That saltiness of the ocean is the saltiness that we see in magnesium chloride.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that same idea that the more magnesium you get into your body, the better off you're going to be with general health.
And there's also other neuro benefits of magnesium. On this show, we talk a lot about nootropics, or substances that enhance cognition, and magnesium fits the bill for all those because it increases the way the two hemispheres of the brain are able to talk to each other and prevents injuries from chemicals and physical injuries.
Oh, absolutely. And to kind of add to that, and to add to the whole aging, and centenarians, magnesium also is really, really great at keeping your glutathione levels high, which is really interesting. Glutathione is this incredibly powerful antioxidant, has incredible anti-aging properties, and magnesium plays a critical role in glutathione levels. Low magnesium has been linked to low glutathione. So it's definitely one of those, like, it has so many incredible roles in the body, and it's so overlooked and not mentioned. So it's so good to get the word out about this.
When you talk about something having more than like 5 or so benefits, it starts to sound too much like a miracle cure, when our bodies are designed to have lots of this and we're just not getting enough. But
Absolutely.
I mean, even on the cardiovascular front, it's an incredible way to lower blood pressure and strengthen the cardiovascular system.
Oh,
Prevent,
yeah.
prevent issues with calcium buildups as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to say that the whole calcium thing, I always like to talk about magnesium and calcium in relation to the heart, because calcium is excitatory. It causes our muscles to contract, and magnesium relaxes your muscles. So it causes them to totally relax. So when we think about our heart, it's this beautiful dance between calcium tightening your heart and magnesium loosening your heart, which is why when you have a heart attack, one of the first things that they give you in the hospital is magnesium, because they're trying to make your heart relax a little bit and stop contracting so much. It's also why, if you have too much calcium and not enough magnesium, we see a correlation between that and heart disease and stroke and all sorts of cardiovascular issues, simply because that calcium will really cause everything to tighten up.
And here's the thing too, that if you think you might be deficient in magnesium, it's not as simple as just going to the doctor and asking for your basic magnesium blood test, because your body keeps the blood in a very tight window, and it pulls from other places so that you stay within that window. That's why when you go in, if you want to get an actual quantified data-driven approach, you need to test for your red blood cell magnesium specifically, or some other test. I think it's called like EXA test or something, which is like another fancy version that actually gives you an accurate approximation of magnesium levels.
Absolutely. About 1% of your magnesium is stored in your blood, and about 60% is stored in your bones, and 40% stored in your muscles. So if we're only looking at that 1%, it's not going to tell us much about what's really going on. For testing, I really like the HTMA test, which is the hair. HTMA. Yeah, the hair. It's you take a sample of your hair and you send it out, and it gives you a little bit more of a long-term picture of what's been going on in your body. So that one's I like that cool one. It's really affordable. And the cool thing about the HTMA test is it also tells you the levels of arsenic and heavy metals, and it gives you a really good picture of what's going on in your body, not just magnesium. So that's the one that I really prefer. But ultimately, if you're dealing with the symptoms of low magnesium, you're probably low in magnesium. And since it's such a safe supplement to use and to try, it's very easy to try it, see if you feel better, and now you know all you needed was magnesium.
Yeah, and in her book, we've talked a lot about this book today, but she mentions like 30 plus conditions that it's involved in. And of course, before making any major lifestyle changes, consult your primary physician. But it's a well tolerated, pretty safe, and so you can see in your case with guidance of your primary care physician if it works for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I always tell people, if you want to try magnesium, but you don't want to spend a bunch of money on a supplement, and you're just kind of dipping your toe in the idea of using magnesium, Epsom salts are a great first way to be introduced to magnesium. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, and it's readily available at stores all over. I mean, you can get a bag of Epsom salt for like $1. It's so cheap. And if you soak in that, what you do is you draw a bath, soak in Epsom salt for about 20 minutes. And if you see that your symptoms are starting to go away, then you know, hey, the magnesium's working. This is what I needed all along.
Yeah.
So it's a quick, easy test to do.
It's a good litmus test.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about the forms of magnesium now. We've talked about a couple of the different ones, but let's give the listeners like a rundown of what's out there, what they should take, maybe what you take and what I take, and we'll just compare.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great. So this is probably one of the major reasons people don't take magnesium is because there's so many different types out there and people get overwhelmed, or they'll try one and then decide, hey, magnesium didn't work for me. And it's because they're trying one that doesn't react well with their body. So just to preface all of this, everybody has their own unique, beautiful biochemistry going on in their body. And what's going to work for a 55-year-old man is not going to work for a 22-year-old woman. So keep that in mind as we talk about magnesium, that there is some trial and error involved. You do need to find one that your body really, really gels with and that works really well for you. So the three most popular types of oral supplements that I see on the market is magnesium malate. Magnesium malate is really, really great for energy production. So if you tend to hit that like mid-afternoon slump, or like me around 11 or 12 o'clock, that's when your coffee starts wearing off and you need a little energy boost, then magnesium malate is really, really incredible for that. It'll give you a great boost of energy without giving you the jitters, without making you feel jumpy or irritable. Another one that's very popular is magnesium glycinate. And glycinate is often taken to induce rest. So glycinate is really great if you're dealing with sleep issues, insomnia, a hard time falling asleep, hard time staying asleep. Glycinate is a really good option to take right before bed. And then the one that we spoke about earlier, which is most likely the most popular one out there, is magnesium citrate. And that's found commonly in products like Natural Calm. It's very big on the market. Citrate is often advertised for stress and anxiety to kind of help you stay calmer. But it can cause stomach upset. So definitely start low and slow if you're going to start taking magnesium citrate. And then we've got two options which are topical, and that's magnesium chloride and magnesium sulfate. So like I said before, sulfate is Epsom salt, readily available just about everywhere. If you've ever like sprained your ankle and the doctor says, oh, you should soak it in Epsom salt, it's because it's magnesium. So it works amazingly, And then magnesium chloride is often found in oils, sprays, and lotions. And magnesium chloride is salt-based. So it can feel irritating or itchy on the skin if you use it straight. You could also find magnesium chloride crystals, which you can put into the bath as well and soak in those as well, which is a little bit gentler on your skin. Or, of course, magnesium lotions, which give you the great benefits of magnesium chloride without causing the itchiness and dryness. There was a study done a few years back, it's fairly recent, and they tested the efficacy of magnesium chloride versus oral supplements. And they found that using magnesium chloride raised the subject's magnesium levels in about 12 weeks versus oral supplementation, which took anywhere from 6 to 9 months. So we are seeing that chloride works really, really quickly and really raises your levels in a way that's speedy and fast, and you don't have to worry about digesting it and having stomach upset or anything like that.
My own experience with the magnesium chloride spray is that the first bunch of times I used it, my skin got itchy and dry afterward, and then as I became more accustomed to it, now when I use it, it's like a slight residue afterward, but it's like barely noticeable. But I'm curious if magnesium, when applied topically, has systemic effects or if it's mostly local.
We've seen both. We've seen that because it does raise your levels so quickly, it is causing systemic benefits. But as far as localizing, it's one of the fastest, easiest ways to address local issues. So if, for instance, like if you're dealing with a leg cramp, you could take a magnesium pill and then you have to wait for it to digest, and then you have to wait for it to get through your blood system, and then you have to wait for it to get to your leg, like it takes some time. Whereas when you use it topically, you can isolate it to that leg cramp and it'll get to where it needs to go within minutes. So it makes it really, really a fast method of delivery. But with regular use, daily use, we do see systemically that it does make an impact as well.
Have you tried a different form of oral supplementation called L3N8?
I haven't. So L3 and 8 is reportedly able to cross the blood-brain barrier.
Hmm.
And I understand that it works really, really well for anything neurological. So if you are dealing with, anxiety and any kind of neurological disorders, anything like that, that it has been shown to be really effective. But I haven't seen enough research that makes me want to try it. So I'm still, perusing through journals and clinical articles to see if I could find more research about it.
It's also considerably more expensive.
Yes, yes, which makes it really difficult for some people to access,
Yeah.
which, absolutely.
One other thing to consider when buying a magnesium supplement, aside from the form, is something called elemental magnesium. What's that?
Um, you know, I've seen some research on it, some reach. I haven't seen enough that really makes it um, make a huge difference. I always tell people, especially if you're going to do with oral supplementation, you want to make sure that not only is there, a good amount of magnesium in there, but that there aren't other ingredients that make it just as toxic for your body.
Yeah.
So stay away from the synthetic additives that are in oral supplements, that type of thing.
For example, the magnesium glycinate powder I have a powder, and I think a serving is like 1.6 grams of it or something very large, but then that only has 300 milligrams of elemental magnesium. And I was unsure whether or not I should be targeting around 600 milligrams of elemental magnesium or just the one serving of 1600 milligrams.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this stuff makes it so much more confusing
Yeah.
and makes people not want to use magnesium because not only are we dealing with all these different forms, we're also dealing with all these, all these different elemental versus not elemental. My understanding with magnesium is that you've got your elemental magnesium, and the part that you bind it with is what makes it feel different in your body. So magnesium citrate, for instance, is that elemental magnesium bound to citric acid. So it's that's where we get magnesium citrate, so the way that it, or the element that it's bound to, so in this example would be citric acid, makes the absorbability different in your body. So that's what, when we're looking at citrate versus glycinate versus malate. Malate is magnesium, that elemental magnesium bound to malic acid. And that's what makes malate. And for some people, they absorb that better. For some other people, they might not. So it's that extra thing that it's bound to that makes the difference for a lot of people.
Yeah, and sometimes the thing it's bound to is a huge dose, and sometimes it's a very small dose. So it depends on what it's bound to.
Exactly, exactly. But when we talk about how much like the RDA recommends for magnesium, they're just saying magnesium in general, not necessarily what it's bound to, what it's not. They're just saying, just magnesium, whatever form you're using.
So talk to me about how you formulated your products. It's not just magnesium.
Yeah, yeah. So we created 3 different products to address the 3 different issues that people face here in America. So the first one is sleep, and we created a cream that helps, that's totally, totally concentrated with magnesium chloride, and is an incredible, incredible way of getting more magnesium into your body right before bed. But instead of it just being magnesium, we also added some beautiful herbs, adaptogenic herbs that really, really support your body's rest cycle. So we've added like chamomile and passion flower and lavender and all these beautiful herbs to it. We also created one for stress, and the stress formula also has ashwagandha and tulsi and rhodiola and all these awesome herbs that support, quieting down of all of our nerves. And our last formula is for pain and tension, cramping, and that one's got arnica in it. It's got comfrey, it's got birch, it's got peppermint. So all these incredible, incredible properties that help with alleviate pain and tension and cramping. So, but yeah, they're all natural. There's nothing in our formulas that can be considered toxic. They're all ranked 1 to 2 in the Skin Deep EWG database. So all
Oh,
really good,
nice.
healthy things. Yeah.
That's a major accollade. And for those
Yeah.
that don't know, the EWG, they create a list I guess, a database of all the common products, and they break it down, review them thoroughly, check the ingredients list, and show you what's actually in it other than what meets the eye.
Absolutely. It's a huge, incredible resource. So as you are looking specifically at skincare products, check out the ingredients in your skincare and match it up against the EWG Deep database. And it'll give you a really good idea of what's in there, what's toxic, what's not toxic, what you should avoid, what you shouldn't avoid. Because truthfully, what you put on your skin goes into your body. And so many people don't make that connection. It's so important. I often relate it to like a nicotine patch. When we look at nicotine patches, it's this like tiny little square and you stick it on your body. And it makes this huge difference because it goes through your skin. So imagine if you're putting lotion on your body that's filled with parabens or phthalates and all those yucky things. Imagine what that does to your body.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that we absorb about 60% of the solution that's placed in our skin, which is hard to believe because it's such a high number, but
it's huge. And it's even higher for children because they absorb even more of what gets put on their skin. So it's definitely something to keep in mind.
And that same resource too actually has more than just skincare products. Like before I buy any product that I'll be regularly using, it's like, I guess, a consumable, such as like laundry detergent, soaps even, I'll check their list to see how it's rated because those are notorious for having very high levels of ingredients you don't want to be exposing yourself to.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Especially endocrine disruptors. That's one of the things that I'm seeing so much, especially in laundry detergent and household cleaners. We're seeing that these products can really make an impact on our hormones, and our hormones control just about everything we do.
Yeah.
So it's so important to be aware of that.
How do you choose the different ingredients in your blends? Because those are all very well-known adaptogens. And so what made you choose those specific ones?
So on my journey to get myself healthier again, to overcome my insomnia and anxiety in particular, I started using a lot of different herbs and homeopathic remedies and all sorts of great different essential oils just to try and help myself feel normal again. And when I started using magnesium, I kept using those herbs and I kept using those essential oils. And I thought, wouldn't it just be so much easier to have it in one product? So I wouldn't have to do a bunch of different things all throughout the day. And so I actually worked with 3 different chemists from all around the world to formulate this product. And it took about 1.5 years of lots of trial and error because I wanted a product that had a ton of magnesium in it, but that didn't have stabilizers that were synthetic and preservatives that can cause issues. And apparently that's harder to do than I anticipated. So we really had to do a lot of consulting with a lot of different chemists in order to figure out how to make this all work in one product.
And what's the bioavailability of the adaptogens like inside those formulas?
So I found some really good research to support, especially like ashwagandha and tulsi and that kind of thing. But what I found that was really interesting is not only do they help with stress and relaxation, they're actually really good for your skin. Like it works really well for cellular turnover. It really works for, they've got some great antioxidant properties that help stave off the aging process. So especially when we're looking at skincare, we want something that works double duty, that not only gives you a great amount of magnesium in your body, but also makes your skin look really nice and feel really soft without feeling greasy, that kind of thing.
I interviewed a company that makes great red light therapy panels called Luminous Red, and they were talking about how putting green tea on your skin before the sessions can make it a lot more effective and have better skin rejuvenation properties. And so I find it interesting that the more I learn about this, I'm realizing that there's all kinds of different reasons to apply plants and adaptogens to the skin.
Oh, wow. I did not know that about green tea and red light therapy. Red light therapy is something I'm just dipping my toe in the water in terms of research, and just the stuff that I've learned, like my mind is blown when it comes to red light therapy. So that is so cool.
It's incredible. What else are you interested in researching these days?
I've been, one thing that I really wanted to bring up was the idea of magnesium draining, because it's so important to get a lot of magnesium in our system, but it's also important for us to keep it there. And so much of what we do really, really impacts our magnesium levels and drains it. So one of the big things is sugar. Sugar, I've read before that 1 molecule of sugar needs 54 molecules of magnesium to balance it out. So the more sugar you're taking, the harder it is to keep your magnesium levels in check. And this is particularly something that to consider around the holidays or times where, like if your birthday's coming up and you're going to have a few extra pieces of cake or something like that, consider upping your magnesium levels for that brief amount of time so that you can offset the amount of sugar that you're taking in your body. Another thing is stress. Stress depletes your magnesium levels excessively. So we kind of get into this really vicious cycle that when we stress out, we deplete our magnesium. When you're low in magnesium, it causes stress. And so we keep living in this cycle of stress and magnesium. So if you do have a high stress job, or if you're going through a period of your life that if you're in school and you're taking finals, you're going to be under a lot of undue stress, consider supplementing with magnesium a little bit more than you normally would. Other things that we know to avoid: alcohol, soda, caffeine, those kind of things, all the baddies. Those also really, really wreak havoc on your magnesium levels as well. And then there's certain medications. A lot of anxiety medications deplete your magnesium, which keeps you in a vicious cycle and dependent on anxiety medications.
That's terrible.
So yeah, those are things to kind of consider, not only how much we're taking in, but how much we're draining on a daily basis. And if you are an athlete, you sweat out your magnesium. It's an electrolyte,
Yes.
So if you are an endurance athlete, a lot of triathletes and people who run marathons, they find that they get terrible leg cramps and terrible foot cramps. And a lot of the reason why is because they're not replenishing the magnesium that they've lost.
I had something similar, actually. My training was steady. I hadn't added much, but then I started getting these terrible cramps, and I wake up and writhing in pain from these cramps in the middle of the night. And then I realized it wasn't from the training or the stress. It was from adding nice long 30, 40 minutes sauna practice on top of that. And I was sweating it all out. And it wasn't just magnesium. It was other minerals and trace minerals as well. But once I started addressing that, it went away very quickly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm here in sunny Florida where it's, disgustingly hot every single day. So, I mean, everybody sweats here in Florida because it's so hot. And it's one of those things that summertime, you might need to replace a little bit more of those electrolytes that you lose during these really brutal hot months here in Florida.
Yeah. And one other thing I like to use magnesium for, it's when I travel and I'm going to be on a plane exposed to high amounts of wireless signals and electromagnetic fields. Magnesium is a natural calcium channel blocker. So it helps mitigate the downsides and the biological damage from that exposure. And it's easy and cheap. So it's a great one to add whenever you're going to be in an environment that can be stressful in, I guess, the chemical or electromagnetic way as well.
Oh yeah. And aren't we all living in this huge electromagnetic bubble right now?
Yes.
we really don't consider or at least we really don't know the long-term effects of all the EMF radiation that we face on a daily basis with our phones, with our electronics, with our televisions. It's crazy. I can't wait to see more research done on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, Natalie, where can those that are interested connect with you or pick up some of your adaptogen infused products?
Sure. I can be found at BeRootedIn.com. And that is our website. It's also the same for all of our social media channels. So Facebook, Instagram, at BeRootedIn. And I answer my messages. So if you send me a message, if you have a question, if you just want to chat about health, please send me a message. I love talking to people. And I do have a code. If any of your listeners want to give it a try, if they use the code HEALTHY on our website, then it'll give them 20% off plus free shipping. So it's a great way to give our products a try to see if they might be a good fit for you.
Awesome. I have one more question before we go on to the rapid fire round.
Oh boy. Go for it.
Imagine that there's a burning of books and all knowledge on earth is gone, but you get to save the works of 3 teachers. They can be anything ranging from books to podcasts to YouTube videos. You get 3. What would you choose and why?
Well, definitely off the bat, of course, I'd choose the Bible, absolutely. To me, it's an instruction manual for life.
Uh-huh.
Right? So that would definitely be number 1. The other 2, that's a tricky one. Wow.
I'll choose the second one for you. You can choose the Magnesium Miracle for number 2.
Absolutely. That's a great one. I have it here on my desk with me. I actually keep
okay.
it. I keep it as a reference at all times.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. Well, on to the rapid fire round. What's the best or worst advice you've ever received?
Oh, the best advice I've ever received was to not give up. So when you are dealing with any issue, whether it be business, health, anything, don't give up. Don't let anything get in your way of achieving your goal. And for me, my goal was to have health freedom and to feel like a normal functioning human being. And so I kept going, I kept looking, and now I have the health freedom that I have today because I didn't give up and I didn't take people's answers at first. And the worst advice that I will have ever received is that it's just normal. It's normal to not sleep. It's normal to feel like garbage every day. It's normal to be fatigued constantly. It's normal to be anxious. And I'm like, what kind of normal is that? Other countries don't feel like that's normal. So if you're tired all the time, if you're, having headaches all the time, please know it's not normal. Normal is health freedom. And until you get that, keep looking and don't give up.
Don't settle for normalcy.
Yes, 100%, 100%.
What's the number one thing that you believe that virtually nobody else agrees with?
The number one thing that I believe that nobody else agrees with is that you can heal your body, that your body was meant to heal. So many times we're told, you have this disease, you have that disease. Oh, well, you'll have to deal with that for the rest of your life. No. Your body was meant to heal. Those symptoms that we get, those diseases that we get, it's a divine tap on the shoulder saying, hey, there's something wrong. You should address that. It's not meant to be for the rest of your life. You can heal. You absolutely can.
I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a book called Regenerate by Sire G, and he goes all into the health sovereignty we all have and how how incredible the human machine is at regenerating and rebuilding. And if you listen to it, you heed its advice, then you're capable of very incredible things.
That is not a book I've read, but it sounds exciting and I definitely want to read it. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, let me know what you think.
Yeah, I will. There was the person that first made me totally aware of this. Have you ever heard of, I can't remember his last name, but his name is Chris, and he came up with the Chris Beat Cancer series. But he basically talks about healing himself naturally from cancer. And he really kind of put it in perspective that if we can get sick, then we can heal. There's no reason, sickness is temporary. It's not the rest of your life. You can fix these problems. And it's so encouraging.
Yeah, and when we get sick, modern medicine supports the body as the body does its natural processes and recovers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely.
What's one thing that your tribe doesn't know about you?
One thing that they don't know about me is that I am an extreme sports junkie. I love adrenaline rush. I've jumped off of waterfalls. I've jumped out of planes. I've done it all. And I think that it's a wonderful and fun and incredible thing to do is adrenaline junkie kind of sports.
Make sure you take your magnesium first to protect yourself.
Absolutely. Although I'm not sure it'll help with a broken leg.
Yeah. Well, how would you like to conclude our journey together this morning?
I would love to encourage people to do their own research, take everything that you learn on podcasts or that you hear anywhere and do your own research. It's so important to come to your own conclusions. And it's so important to really, really find the science behind everything that people have told you. So always, take what I've said, take what anybody said as encouragement, but do your own research on top of that.
Yeah. Use it as your starting point to do your research thoroughly, come to your own conclusions. Let us be your guides, but nothing more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I'm Nick Urban here today with Natalie Jurado, signing off from mindbodypeak.com. Have a great week. I hope that this has been helpful for you. If you enjoyed it, subscribe and hit the thumbs up. I love knowing who's in the 1% committed to reaching their full potential. Comment 1% below so that I know who you are. For all the resources and links, meet me on my website at mindbodypeak.com. I appreciate you and look forward to connecting with you. As a reminder, the information depicted in this video is for information purposes only. Please consult your primary healthcare professional before making any lifestyle changes.